Zyeli was a warrior of the Nithari, a proud alien race known for strength and honor. She had fought in many battles across many stars. Her name was written in the songs of her people, feared by enemies and loved by her squad. But this battle was different. The sky above burned red. The land below was cracked and black. A human bombing run had shattered the ridge where she stood. Her body had been thrown like a leaf in the wind. Her armor was broken, her leg twisted, and her back was numb. She could not move her legs. She tried to speak, but only blood came from her mouth. Her helmet was cracked, letting the cold air sting her skin. Around her, her own soldiers ran, shouted, and screamed, but no one looked back at her. No one checked if she was alive. "Leave her," someone said. "She's done." Zyeli wanted to scream, to fight, to crawl if she had to. But her body had stopped listening to her mind. Her hand reached out, trembling, fingers bloody and shaking. But no one saw it. One by one, they left her behind, swallowed by smoke and flame. Hours passed. The sound of gunfire faded. Now there was only wind and dust. Zayli's face lay half in the dirt, half in ash. She could see a broken tree nearby and the body of an enemy soldier, dead and still holding his weapon. Birds came and went, sniffing at her. But they didn't touch her, not yet. She didn't cry. Warriors didn't cry. But she felt something worse than pain, worse than the cold or the fear. She felt forgotten, thrown away like trash, not even worth finishing off. A hero of her people, left to rot on a nameless hill. The sky turned orange as evening came. She thought this was it, her last sunset. She had no energy left, no strength to move. Her eyes slowly closed. Then she heard footsteps. Not the heavy boots of her own kind, not the growl of a hunting beast. These steps were slower, more careful. She opened her eyes just a little. Dust blew past, and through it, she saw a human. He was tall, wearing a long jacket. Helmet off, rifle on his back. He looked tired, like someone who had seen too much war. His name was Jack, though she didn't know it yet. Jack stepped over a fallen log and stopped. His eyes found Zali's broken body. He raised his rifle fast, aiming at her head. Her breath caught. She was ready to die. But Jack didn't shoot. He waited, looked closer, then took a step forward. He saw the cracked armor, the blood, the frozen legs. He knelt down slowly and spoke. "You alive?" he asked softly. Zyeli blinked once. He stared at her eyes, saw the pain, the fear, but also something else. Strength. "I'm not gonna hurt you," he said. "You're not moving, huh?" He looked around, saw no enemies, then leaned closer. "Anyone coming back for you?" She blinked twice. Jack sighed and sat down beside her. He pulled out a small water bottle and touched it to her lips. "Here, drink." Water dripped down her dry throat like fire. But she didn't stop drinking. It was the first thing she had tasted since the blast. "You shouldn't be alive," Jack whispered. "But here you are." Zyeli stared at him, trying to understand. Why wasn't he killing her? Why was he helping her? Jack looked up at the burning sky, then back at her. "I can't leave you here," he said. "No way, I'm walking away." He gently pulled her up, lifting her like she weighed nothing. She groaned in pain, but he didn't stop. Her head fell against his chest, and for the first time, she felt warmth. She didn't know where he was taking her, or why, but she didn't care. For the first time since the battle, she didn't feel alone, and somewhere deep inside, she felt the first spark of something she thought she had lost. Hope. Jack walked slowly, his arms full, carrying Zyeli through the burning forest. Her body was heavy, but he didn't complain. Every step made his back ache, but he kept moving. One wrong step and he could fall, and she would fall too. Zyeli was silent in his arms, her head resting against his chest. Her eyes opened just a little. She saw trees, smoke, and sky, but most of all, she felt the human steady heartbeat. They reached an old bunker, half buried under rock and vines. It was left over from some forgotten war. The metal door was rusted, but Jack kicked it open with one sharp boot. Inside, it was dark and cold, but it was safe. He laid Zyeli down gently. On a soft pile of old blankets, there, he whispered, "Not great, but better than dying out there." Zyeli watched him move around the room. He checked the corners, blocked the door, and made a fire using scrap wood and an old lighter. Light filled the space, and for a moment, it felt like home, even if it wasn't. Jack pulled out food from his pack-dried fruit, meat sticks, and water. He fed her little by little, careful not to choke her. She couldn't speak, not yet, but her eyes spoke for her. "Thank you," he smiled. "You've got strong eyes, you know that," he said. "Don't worry, I've seen worse." Zyeli blinked once. He laughed. "You understand me?" She blinked again. Jack paused, thinking, 1 blink for yes. Blink, 2 for no. Blink, blink. "All right," he nodded. "We'll make it work." Days passed slowly. Every morning, Jack checked her wounds, cleaned the cuts, and rubbed ointment on the bruises. Her spine was damaged, and her legs still didn't move. But she felt a little more each day, a tingling in her toes, a twitch in one foot. It gave her hope, even if it was small. Jack talked while he worked. He told her about Earth, about the stars he'd seen, about a little girl he once knew. Zyeli listened in silence, but inside she held every word like treasure. One night, as rain tapped the bunker walls, Jack sat beside her with a small book. He showed her a pictured girl standing in front of a school. "Smiling, my sisters," he said, voice soft. "They're gone now." Lee reached for the book with one hand. Her fingers shook as she touched the photo. She held it for a second, then passed it back. Jack didn't say anything, but his eyes turned red. He wiped them quickly. "Thanks," he whispered. "You get it, don't you?" Blink, she did. Jack spent his nights building something from the junk he found in the woods. Bits of old tech, pipes, wheels, and power cells. Zyeli couldn't see what it was at first. But one morning, he rolled it beside her. It was a hover chair, not perfect, a little crooked, a little noisy, but it moved. Jack grinned. "Time to get you rolling," he said. "We're not staying trapped in this hole forever." He lifted her carefully and placed her in the chair. She gasped as it whirred to life, hovering just inches above the floor. Jack handed her a small controller, simple and easy to use. Her thumb moved it slowly, and the chair drifted left, then right, then forward. She looked at him, tears in her eyes. He just nodded. "Told you. I'm not walking away, for the first time." Zyeli smiled. That night, she whispered her first word since the battle. Her voice was weak and rough, but Jack heard it clearly. "Why?" He turned, surprised. "Why? What? Why help me?" she asked, voice shaking. Jack looked at the fire, then at her. "Because you were alone," he said. "Because no one deserves to be left like that." Zyeli stared at the fire too, her mind full of thoughts. Her people had abandoned her, called her useless. But this human? He saw something different, something still alive in her. That night, she didn't sleep. She watched Jack breathe softly, curled up in his corner, and in her heart, something strange began to grow. Trust. The next morning, Jack woke to a surprise. Zyeli was already awake, sitting tall in the hover chair. She looked stronger, her eyes brighter. Her hand held a metal rod shaped like a staff. Made from bunker scrap, she tapped it on the ground and pointed toward the forest. "Let's go." "Outside," she said. Jack grinned. "Yes, ma'am," and so they did. Outside. The world was still broken, but now she wasn't. The forest outside the bunker was quiet. Only the wind moved through the leaves. Carrying the smell of burned wood and ash, birds no longer sang here. The war had chased them away. Zyeli moved slowly in her hover chair, the small metal staff resting. Across her lap, Jack walked beside her, his rifle on his back and a canteen in hand. They didn't speak much, but the silence between them wasn't heavy anymore. It felt calm, peaceful, like two people learning how to breathe again. Every few minutes, Zyeli practiced small moves with her hand, fingers gripping her staff a little tighter. Her nerves were healing, not fast, but enough to give her hope. Jack noticed every change. He never said much, but his smile told her everything. One afternoon, Jack sat on a log, oiling his gun. Zyeli watched from the edge of the clearing. "You smile a lot," she said suddenly. Jack looked up, surprised. "Do I?" "Yes," she said. "Even when everything is broken." Jack shrugged. "If I don't smile, I might cry." Zyeli tilted her head. "You've cried before." He laughed. "I have," he admitted, "but not in front of a war hero." She looked away, her voice low. "I'm no hero." Jack paused, then stood and walked over. He knelt in front of her and looked into her eyes. "You survived," he said. "You kept going when no one else did." She blinked, trying not to let the emotion show. But Jack saw the crack in her armor, the soft part of her she never let anyone see. That night, Jack shared stories about Earth-blue oceans, tall cities, crowded trains. Zyeli listened, imagining what it must feel like to walk through streets filled with laughter instead of gunfire. Then she told him something too. "My sister died in the same war." She said she was younger, faster, she didn't make it. Jack said nothing, but his hand gently rested over hers. No words were needed. Their bond was growing, strong and quiet like the roots of an old tree. They were no longer human and alien, not soldier and warrior. They were just two broken people helping each other stand. But peace never lasted long. One morning, while gathering scrap from an old outpost, Jack saw something that made his stomach turn. A broken camera drone, still blinking with red light. "Someone found us," he whispered. He rushed back to the bunker. Zyeli was already waiting by the door, her instincts sharp again. "What did you see?" she asked. "Enemy drone," Jack said. "It saw me." Zayli's voice turned cold. "They'll come for us." Jack nodded. "We need to prepare for the next 2 days." They worked together. Jack rigged old explosives around the forest path. Zyeli programmed noise traps and motion alarms using scavenged tech. They turned the forest into a trap. Every tree a weapon, every rock a warning. The night before the attack, they sat by the fire again. Zyeli leaned her head against Jack's shoulder. "If I die tomorrow," she whispered, "don't blame yourself. You're not dying." Jack said firmly, "Not on my watch. You can't save everyone," she said softly. "I'm not trying to save everyone," he said, turning to her. "I'm saving you." Zyeli looked at him, their eyes locked. There was something in his voice, something deep and raw. She had never heard anyone speak to her like that. Then came the storm. At dawn, they heard the engines 3 mercenary ships dropping into the trees. Black-clad soldiers with heavy weapons began to sweep the area. Zyeli, now strapped into her hover chair with her staff in hand, took a deep breath. "Let's show them what we've built." The first wave triggered the noise traps loud. High-pitched sirens echoed through the trees. Blinding lights flashed. Jack picked them off from behind logs and brush. One by one, they fell. The second wave got closer, but Zyeli activated an old turret she had repaired. Bullets flew, fire erupted. The mercenaries screamed and ran for cover, but one got close to close. Jack fought him hand to hand. It was brutal, fast. Jack was bleeding. Zyeli tried to move, but her legs still refused to listen. Then it happened. Her right foot twitched. Just once, then again, she shouted, grabbing her staff. She pushed forward, and the hover chair surged ahead, smashing into the enemy with full force. Jack gasped as the man fell back. Unconscious, Zyeli reached out to Jack, helping him stand. "You moved?" he whispered. "I did." She smiled. "Told you I wasn't dying." When the last soldier ran, the forest was quiet again. Only smoke, blood, and the sound of breathing filled the air. Jack leaned against a tree. Laughing softly, "We did it." Zyeli nodded, her hand holding his tightly together. Smoke curled above the trees. The forest floor was littered with broken weapons, scorched leaves, and the bodies of the mercenaries who had tried to kill them. Jack's hands were shaking, his shoulder bleeding. But he smiled through the pain. Zyeli sat in her hover chair beside him. Her staff still gripped tight. Her legs had moved Donley a little, but enough to change everything. It meant hope. It meant maybe she wasn't lost after all. "You saved me," Jack said, leaning back against a tree. Again, Zyeli looked at him, her voice low. "I only hit him with the chair," Jack chuckled. "Yeah, but it was perfect timing." The laughter faded. The sun rose slowly, golden light washing over the broken earth. Jack winced as he stood. "We need to move," he said. "Those mercs were sent by a bounty crew. Others will follow." Zyeli nodded. "I can help now." "You?" "Already did," Jack said. Then added with a grin, "You hit like a tank." They returned to the bunker just long enough to gather what they needed: Jack's bag, Zaylee's tools, some food, and a power cell for the chair. Jack wrapped his wound with an old scarf, but it was clear he was in pain. Zyeli noticed. "Let me drive," she said. He raised an eyebrow. "You can't even walk." "But I can pilot," she replied, tapping the hover controls. "Sit behind." Jack hesitated, then climbed on the back of the chair like a soldier boarding a bike. The hovercraft hummed as it lifted off the ground. Zyeli grinned slightly. "Hold on." They flew through the woods, slow, low, and careful. Zyeli moved around fallen trees and broken trails like she had done it all her life. Jack watched from behind, impressed. "You were born for this." "I was born to fight," she said, "but maybe I was also born to escape." They followed a long-forgotten path, one Zyeli remembered from her days as a scout. It led to a ruined communications station hidden deep in the mountain valley. She hoped the signal booster there still worked. They needed help, medical supplies, transport, and a way off this dying land. But as they neared the ruins, trouble found them again. A distant explosion echoed from behind. Jack turned, eyes wide. Drones. Zyeli pushed the hover chair faster. The forest blurred around them. "We're close," she said. "Hold on." Tight, the old station appeared like a ghost, gray towers fallen. Wires tangled in tree roots. Metal doors half open. They raced inside just as the first drone flew over. Red lights scanning. Inside, dust filled the air. Jack helped Zyeli off the chair and onto a small bench, then limped toward the broken console. Come on," he muttered, pressing buttons. Wires sparking under his fingers. Zyeli sat quietly, watching his hands, blood still dripping from his shoulder. She felt helpless, even as her mind raced. "There's a bypass switch," she said. "Left panel." Near the ground, Jack dropped down, found it, and flipped it. The lights flickered. Then a soft hum echoed through the building. The screen blinked to life. "Got it," he said. "Now let's call someone." He activated an old emergency beacon, one that sent a pulse to nearby systems. "It'll take time," he said, "but if there's anyone friendly out there, they'll hear us." Zyeli looked at him. "You're hurt." Jack smiled weakly. "I've been worse." "You always say that," she said. "Because it's true," he replied, falling down beside her. The hours passed slowly. Jack drifted in and out of sleep. Zyeli stayed awake, listening to the wind outside, watching the scanner, waiting, hoping. When the beacon pinged, she jumped. A response had come through, simple and short, receiving. Signal, location confirmed. ETA 8 hours, relief flooded her chest. But Jack was burning with fever. His wound had turned dark, infected. His body trembled under the thin blanket she had given him. Zyeli held his hand tightly. "Stay with me," she whispered. "You didn't give up on me. I won't give up on you." She searched the old cabinets. Found a half-used medical injector. Maybe still good, maybe not. She didn't care. She pressed it into his arm and prayed. Jack groaned, eyes fluttering open. "Did we make contact?" "Yes," she said. "Help is coming." He smiled, then closed his eyes again, trusting her to protect him now. Outside, the wind blew harder. The drones had moved on for now, but Zyeli didn't lower her guard. Her hand rested on her staff. Her legs twitched again under her blanket. She was changing, not just healing, but growing, stronger, wiser, more human in some ways, more herself in others. Jack had given her a second chance. Now it was her turn to return the favor. The sun had not yet risen, but the sky was already glowing red. Zyeli stood beside Jack, who was half-conscious on a stretcher she had built from scrap and metal rods. His fever had gone down a little, but he was weak, to walk, to weak. To fight, Zali's hands moved fast, wiring parts, checking energy cells, and sealing the last pieces of a broken enemy shuttle they had found behind the station. She had once trained to destroy ships like this. Now she was trying to make one fly. The signal Jack sent had reached someone. The message said ETA 8 hours, but now 6 had already passed. They had no time left. Drones had returned, scanning. The forest. Zyeli had seen red lights flash near the trees. She knew what came next. Not a small hunting team, but full extermination forces. She had been part of those once. No prisoners, no mercy. Jack groaned softly, his head rolling to the side. "Are we leaving?" he asked, voice dry. "Yes," Zyeli said, "but you need to hold on, just a little longer." He smiled weakly. "Only if you're the pilot," she smirked. Always the shuttle was old, cracked, and patched together with more hope than patched together with more hope than metal, but its core was alive, and that was enough. Zyeli slid into the pilot's seat, fingers dancing across controls she hadn't touched in years. The screen blinked, engine lights flickered. It was working. She tapped the communicator again. "This is Zyeli of the Nithari. We are lifting off under fire. Human survivor injured. Repeat, survivor injured." No response came. The engines hummed louder, then roared to life. She rolled the stretcher into the back of the shuttle, strapping Jack down with belts. He reached out and gripped her wrist. "Fly us out," he whispered. "Don't look back." Zyeli nodded once, then returned to the cockpit. The clearing outside was filled with wind and falling ash. The forest seemed to groan as if warning her to stay. But she didn't listen. The shuttle lifted, shaky at first, then steadier, higher. Trees dropped away beneath them, smoke spinning into clouds. For one moment, it felt like they were free. Then the alarm screamed. Enemy warships had locked onto them. Tracking beams lit up the air. Zyeli cursed under her breath. Of course, she banked hard left, dodging the first blast. The shuttle rocked violently, metal panels rattling. Sparks flew above Jack's head in the back, but he didn't scream. He trusted her. Zayli's hands moved fast, cutting power from the weapons to boost the shields. Then, pushing the engines far past safe levels, the ship groaned like it was, crying out in pain, but it kept flying. She glanced at the radar. For enemy ships now, all faster, better armed. "We need a miracle," she said softly. Then her eyes narrowed. She didn't need weapons. She needed brains. She sent the shuttle into a spin, diving low into a canyon below. The walls were sharp and tight, each turn just a few feet from crashing. The enemies followed, but Zyeli had mapped this place in her mind. She knew every twist. One ship crashed first, smashing into the canyon wall, flames lighting the dark. Two others clipped each other, trying to follow. Zyeli flew straight into a narrow tunnel through the stone, the walls scraping the shuttle's wings. When they emerged, only one enemy remained. Zyeli flew up into the clouds, then cut all power suddenly. The shuttle dropped like a stone. The enemy ship shot past, not expecting it. Zyeli powered the engines again and fired one flare, not a weapon, but bright enough to blind the sensors. The enemy ship jerked, then flew straight into a cliff edge. Silence returned. Zyeli leaned back, heart pounding, hands shaking. "We're clear," she said. "We made it." She flew higher, breaking into the upper sky. The stars opened above them like cold silver eyes. And then Finalia's voice came through the coms. "This is Medivac 7. We've locked your signal." Opening hangar doors, a human rescue ship appeared above, lights shining down like the sun. Zyeli steered the shuttle gently into the bay, landing rough but safe. Doctors rushed in. Pulling Jack onto a hoverbed, Zyeli followed, limping slightly, her legs moving, slow but real. One doctor looked at her, surprised. "You brought him out alive." Zyeli nodded. "He brought me back to life first." Jack opened his eyes as they wheeled him away, his voice barely a whisper. "You didn't give up." Zyeli held his hand tightly. "Never." The rescue ship hummed softly as it moved through space. A clean, calm silence after the burning chaos below. Jack was asleep in a medical pod, machines gently beeping around him. Zyeli sat nearby in a chair, her eyes half closed, but her mind fully awake. Her legs ached, not from pain, but from life. She could feel her knees now, her toes, her muscles twitching when she concentrated. It was strange, wonderful, terrifying after so long without movement. Even a small step felt like flying. Doctors had scanned her eyes wide at her healing progress. "It's not normal," one had whispered. The damage was permanent, but nothing had been normal since she met the human who refused to leave her. She looked at Jack's face through the glass pod, pale but peaceful. His wounds were healing, his heartbeat steady. The infection was gone, and the fever had broken. But he had pushed himself too far to save her. Now it was her turn to stay by him. She didn't leave his side, not even to sleep. She studied the ship's systems, asked questions, learned about Earth medicine and human healing tech. Her mind had always been sharp. Now it burned with purpose. She wouldn't let him down. 3 days passed in silence. On the 4th day, Jack woke. His eyes blinked open slowly. His first words were, "Are we safe?" Zyeli smiled, leaning close. "We're flying through empty space. No enemies, no warships, just stars." Jack breathed out. "You got us out." "You taught me how," she said. He laughed, though it hurt. "I always knew you'd fly better." Then me. She reached into the pod and held his hand. Her fingers warm, steady. "We made it, Jack." He squeezed back weakly. Together, the medical crew gave them a private room. Small but quiet, Jack was moved from the pod to a real bed. Zyeli stayed with him. Sitting across the room in her chair, her legs bent now, her toes moving slowly under the blanket. "You're walking soon," Jack said one morning. "I can feel it." Zyeli nodded. "I will, for you." "No," Jack said, looking serious. "For you, Zyeli. Walk for yourself, not because of me." His words made her chest tighten. She looked down. "You're the reason I lived." Jack's voice softened. "We're the reason we both lived. That's what matters." Days turned to a week. Zyeli began physical therapy with human doctors. She stood slowly, holding on to bars. With trembling arms, her legs wobbled like newborn branches, but she didn't fall. Jack watched from his bed, his eyes filled with pride. Each day, she walked a little more. Each day, her heart opened wider. She laughed now, not just smiled. She teased Jack about his terrible cooking stories. She asked about Earth songs and even tried one herself. Badly, but Jack loved it anyway. But something else was growing too. People began to whisper on the ship. A Nathari warrior and a human soldier surviving together, defending each other, trusting each other. Some were amazed, some were confused. Some were angry. Zyeli heard it in the halls. How can she sit beside a human? Is she a traitor to her kind? Aliens like her don't belong here. Jack heard it too. Why didn't he leave her? She's one of them, the killers. He should have saved a human instead. One night, Zyeli stood outside the observation window, looking at the stars. Jack came beside her with a blanket wrapped around his shoulders. They stood in silence for a while. They don't understand. Zyeli said quietly, "They don't need to." Jack replied, "We do." Zyeli turned toward him. "What are we going to do, Jack?" He smiled. "Live." She nodded, and after that, he looked at her, his eyes full of something deeper than words. "Let's show them what mercy looks like." Zyeli felt her heart beat faster. Together? "Always," Jack said, without a pause, that night. They sat together in the ship's mess hall, side by side, Jack with his tray of soup, Zyeli with hers of strange protein blocks. A few people stared, but more began to nod, whisper, wonder, not. All bridges were easy to build, but someone had to take the first step. Zyeli looked down at her feet, then slowly, quietly, she stood from her chair. Not holding anything, not using her staff, just her legs. They trembled. But they held. Jack stared, eyes wide. "You're standing." Zyeli took a shaky step toward him. "For both of us," she whispered, and then another step, and another. The space station hung like a silver moon above the Earth-like planet below. Clean, bright, and full of quiet tension. Jack and Zyeli walked side by side through the docking bay. Her steps slow but sure. His arms still healing but strong at her. Back, every eye turned to them. Soldiers, engineers, diplomats. Nurses, human and alien, stopped what they were doing to watch the once feared Nathari warrior and the human soldier who saved her. Some stared with confusion, some with admiration, but none looked away. Zyeli kept her chin high, her spine straight. She did not limp, even when her legs began to ache again. Every step reminded her she had been broken. But now, every step said, "I'm not anymore." Jack smiled beside her. "They're all watching you." She looked at him with a hint of amusement. "Then let them learn something." They entered the council chamber. A wide round room with glowing floors and representatives from 10 different worlds. A large human general stood first, voice echoing through the chamber. "You saved one of ours, Zyeli," he said. "Even after your kind left you behind?" Zyeli nodded. "He saved me first," she replied. "When my own people turned their backs, he carried me, fed me, healed me." A Nathari elder stood next, her eyes old and distant. "You were one of our finest warriors," she said coldly, "and now you stand beside our enemy." "No," Zyeli said, her voice calm and strong. "I stand beside the one who refused to let me die." The room fell silent. Jack stepped forward. "We didn't ask to fight each other," he said. "But in the ruins, when war had taken everything, kindness was the only thing that still mattered." A soft murmur moved through the crowd. The silence cracked just a little. Then a child stood up, half human, half alien, her skin blue, her hair black. She walked forward shyly and placed a small flower on the ground between Zyeli and Jack. "Thank you," she whispered. For showing us what's possible, Zyeli bent down and picked up the flower with careful hands. This, she said, holding it up, is stronger than any weapon. That moment changed everything. The council did not give awards. They did not throw parades, but the air shifted. Doors opened. A project was proposed. A new unit mixed species peacekeepers trained by those who had once been enemies. United by survival, guided by choice, Jack and Zyeli were asked to lead it. At first, they hesitated, but then they looked at each other and saw the same answer in their eyes. Yes, Zyeli said, but we do it our way. Their team grew fast. A wounded insectoid sniper with broken wings, a shy amphibian child with a brain like a machine, a human engineer who had lost his squad and never spoke again. They trained hard, fought harder, and laughed louder than anyone expected. Zyeli taught them how to think like warriors. How to see the battlefield with more than just fear. Jack taught them how to protect each other, how to see every small life as worth saving. They traveled from station to station, planet to planet, cleaning up after war, building shelters, rescuing civilians, stopping fights before they began. Some worlds rejected them, called them traitors, but others opened their gates with tears and gifts. Slowly, the galaxy began to shift. One night, as they camped beneath the twin moons of a ruined colony, Zyeli and Jack sat beside the fire. The team was asleep, stars blinking above. Jack looked at her. "You ever think we'd come this far?" Zyeli smiled. "I didn't even think I'd walk again." He reached out and touched her hand. "You're more than a warrior now." She tilted her head. "What am I, then?" Jack thought for a moment. "A beginning," he said softly. "You are the proof that we don't have to be what they made us." Zyeli looked at him, then leaned her head gently against his shoulder. "Then let's keep going," she whispered. "Let's build something no one will forget." And so they did. Year by year, story by story, their legend grew. Not as the alien and the human who fought each other, but as the ones who fought for something better. They didn't wear medals. They didn't need statues. They walked through fire. And they came out walking tall. Together, always.